Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to Kiss Album Ranking. So the band formed in 1973 and our favorite Kabuki makeup wearing superheroes have released a total of 20 studio albums, not counting the 4 solo albums. So for this we're going to be focusing on just those band related albums, and of course with 20 of them we've got a lot to cover. But before we jump into all of that, if you are new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with Kiss Album Rankings. So 20 studio albums for us to go through here. We're going to jump right into it. And the first one up, coming in at number 20, Carnival of Souls from 1997, 17th studio album. So at the time, this album was actually shelved when it was recorded in lieu of the reunion that was going on, because this was done in 95, 96 era. But it's a decidedly darker sounding album than previous efforts, and it's sort of their grunge album, if you will. This one here, though, I think had it been mixed properly and released on time, at least when it had been recorded, so that it was coming out as part of that contemporary sound, I think it would have done a lot better for them. Lead single off of A Jungle proved that Kiss actually still had it in them. It was a great track, but I just think it got lost in the shuffle of the reunion. And just due to the overall dramatic shift in style and the pandering to the market at the time, for me at least, that's why this one falls in last place. Okay, coming in at number 19, Music from the Elder from 1981, 9th studio album. This one here featuring new drummer Eric Carr, who was taking over for Peter Criss at the time. This is the band's failed attempt at a concept album, but you know, it's not actually as bad as most people think that it is. For me, though, it's the first 2 songs on here that hold it back. Fanfare, which is the orchestral intro track, and then Just a Boy. But the rest of the album, tracks 3 through 11, are pretty good on here, especially the songs Only You and Mr. Blackwell. Coming in at number 18, Hot in the Shade from 1989, 15th studio album from the band. The first 3 singles that came off this thing I think are fantastic in my opinion. Rise to It, Hide Your Heart Forever. There's the fact that Eric Carr sings lead vocals on the song Little Caesar, and so this was the first time since 1981 that someone other than Gene and Paul had actually taken on lead vocals. But even with all of that, this one here I just think has a lot of filler on it. It drags on way past its prime. If the album itself had been trimmed from the 15 songs that are on here down to say 11 or 12 tracks, I think it would have done a lot better and it would be higher in my standing. Coming in at number 17, Animalized from 1984, 12th studio album. This one here featuring new guitarist Mark St. John taking over for Vinnie Vincent. This one here, you know, while it has one of their biggest classic songs on it, Heaven's on Fire, I've just never been able to get into this album as a whole. Try as I might with repeated listens on it, there's just something about it that is unmemorable. Doesn't mean that there isn't good stuff on it. There's a lot of tracks I still like, in particular the deep album cuts like Under the Gun and Thrills in the Night. Coming in at number 16, Crazy Nights from 1987, 14th studio album. And so this one here, you know, while it's not a bad album, it does suffer from a dated sound in my opinion. The band at this point is just trying too hard for the hits, using outside songwriters and production that's definitely defining the sound from the 80s. However, the opening track that's on here, Crazy Crazy Nights, this one here is just, it's actually one of my favorite songs by the band, and I think had the rest of the album itself been more like that first song, it would be doing a lot better in this ranking and just come in a lot higher. All right, coming in at number 15, Psycho Circus from 1998. Get the lenticular thing happening there. This one here, 18th studio album, and reunion of all 4 original members on it. The thing though with this album, while I did like it at the time, it's a little derivative in my opinion, trying way too hard to create anthems and hits. It seemed like every song that's what they were going for on here. And once again, you know, they were using session players on here instead of it being a true reunion album, which is what we all really wanted on it. So each of the members are not fully playing on this thing here. I think it hurts the overall standing for me, but it does have some great tracks. In particular, the title cut, Psycho Circus, Into the Void, Ace Frehley, one of the best songs on here, and Dreamin'. Coming in at number 14, Monster from 2012, 20th studio album, and looks to be their final album here. They're out on their farewell tour at this point. Doesn't look like they're going to be putting anything out. It's been 8 long years. I'd love to say that they were, but I really do think this is the last album. And you know what? If this is their last album, I'm okay with it. I think it's a good one to be going out on top with here. It may not be as classic as their earlier albums, but it is a consistent, solid sounding album all the way through. I do tend to lean towards the album cuts on here over the singles, like the song Back to the Stone Age is really good, Eat Your Heart Out, which I think has a very classic feel to it, and All for the Love of Rock and Roll, which is actually my favorite song on here, and is an Eric Singer song on here. I think he's a great vocalist, and Kiss really should have allowed him to sing sooner. Definitely back during the Revenge era, I think that would have been an amazing thing to have had returning of multiple vocalists at that point. Coming in at number 13, Sonic Boom from 2009, 19th studio album, featuring new guitarist Tommy Thayer and returning drummer Eric Singer coming back into the fold, of course, both wearing makeup on it. It's also the first time since 1979's Dynasty that all 4 members of the band sing lead vocals. So that was a really big deal when this happened. And for me, at least, it was one of the things that actually assisted in the fact that, okay, you're going to put the new members in makeup, but hey, at least they're singing lead vocals, lending more credibility to the overall grouping of the 4 members here. And so of the 2 later era albums, Monster and this one here, I actually think this one here is the better one. It's got stronger, more memorable songs on it. But like Monster, I do prefer the album cuts like Hot and Cold, All for the Glory, which is again another Eric Singer sung song on here. Just a really, really good one. But my favorite track on this album is actually Say Yeah, which I think is a classic sounding song and always goes down a storm in concert, just proving that Kiss still has it. All right, coming in at number 12, Revenge from 1992, 16th studio album, and the one that actually got me into the band was featuring new drummer Eric Singer at the time, who had taken over from Eric Carr, who had unfortunately passed away. Like the title, though, it was meant to be a return to form, heavier sounding album after the more commercial era of the 80s. And while that is the case with the album, unfortunately, though, it didn't translate to album sales the way their more commercial stuff of the 80s had done for them. But there's some really strong songs on here, like the singles Unholy and Domino, which was quite a big hit for them. But there's also some really good deep album cuts like Heart of Chrome and Thou Shalt Not being 2 of my favorites. Coming in at number 11, Asylum from 1985, 13th studio album, featuring new guitarist Bruce Kulick at the time, taking over for Mark St. John. And let me just say, I don't think Bruce Kulick gets enough love, but he really should. He was a great guitar player for the band, just fitting in very well for them and doing quite a bit of lead work and whatnot that I think really helped their material stand out. And this one here being one of the more commercial sounding albums, but I think he did a better job of blending the classic Kiss sound with that more polished 80s sound. And so that's why this one here places where it does, featuring, of course, the big hit Tears Are Falling, but it's also got good deep cuts like Any Way You Slice It and Who Wants to Be Lonely. All right, halfway there, coming in at number 10, Destroyer, 1976, 4th studio album from the band, and arguably Kiss's most successful album. And some would say, it's their best album. I have to disagree with it. It does have 4 of their biggest hits on it: Detroit Rock City, God of Thunder, Shout It Out, and Beth, of course. But the album, in my opinion, is overproduced with the sound effects, the orchestration, the choirs, that sort of stuff. For me, at least, those are the things that hold this back from being as strong as other albums. All right, coming in at number 9, Creatures of the Night from 1982, 10th studio album from the band. last album to feature Ace Frehley until the reunion in 1996. This one here, after the misstep of Music from the Elder, with its change in musical direction, this one here was a nice return to form album, being big, dark, heavy, just carrying all the hallmarks of classic Kiss, you know, what makes them great kind of a thing, and featuring the hits like Creatures of the Night and I Love It Loud, I Still Love You, fantastic ballad. The whole album itself from start to finish is just really good. Coming in at number 8, we've got Hotter Than Hell from 1974, second studio album. Many of the songs on here are concert favorites, as is the case with most of the songs from the first 3 albums. 7 of the 10 tracks on here are classics in my opinion. The only thing that holds this back, though, I think, is the raw, muddy production that's on this. There's no denying the quality of songs, and in particular, the last 2 tracks on here are my favorite, Coming Home and Strange Ways, which features Peter Criss, and I just think he does a fantastic vocal performance on it. Coming in at number 7, self-titled debut from 1974. Out of the 10 tracks that are on here, 8 of these are bona fide classics. Features my favorite of the early hits, Strutter. And, you know, anyone looking to get into Kiss needs to look no further. If you pick up this one album here, you're going to be off to a great start. But again, my only real complaint on this is the early production, and that it contains a cover of the song Kissin' Time, which I just always felt was out of place on here against the Kiss originals. Otherwise, I think this album would have been a perfect album. Okay, coming in at number 6, Dressed to Kill from 1975, third studio album. And for me, this is where things really come together for the band. The production is better, it's tighter, the songs on here are stronger as a whole, and the entire 10 tracks on this thing I think are just outstanding. You know, add in the fact that it's got the classic track Rock and Roll All Night. Yes, it's the studio version as opposed to the live one from their album Alive, which of course is the one we all know, but you know, just having that song on here I think is one of the reasons it places above the other 2 albums from their first 3. Okay, coming in at number 5, Rock and Roll Over from 1976, 5th studio album from the band. And following on from Destroyer, I think this album did it better, which is why it's placing higher. The production is more solid on here. It's not over the top. All the songs have held up better in my opinion, and they're just less dated in terms of their production style. It doesn't have all that orchestration across the board on it. Features big hits like I Want You, Calling Dr. Love, and Hard Luck Woman, and my personal fave on the album, Baby Driver from Peter Criss. Again, you can see a running trend there. I tend to like his vocals on the album. I always think they're stand out. Okay, coming in at number 4, Unmasked from 1980, 8th studio album. Second one that incorporated a disco sound into it, you know, bringing the modern sounds of the time into their overall Kiss sound. And again, while, you know, a lot of fans might feel that it didn't work for the band, personally, I love it. But, you know, it's also because Ace Frehley sings no less than 3 songs on this album here. Talk to Me, Two Sides of the Coin, and Torpedo Girl. His performances and songwriting on this album, I think, are stellar, and what puts it over the top and helps it place where it does. All right, coming in at number 3, Dynasty, 1979, 7th studio album from the band. Last to feature all 4 original members singing on it, of course, until the reunion. But this one here seems to be a real diversive, I should say, album amongst fans. People either love it or hate it. Personally, for me, I love this album, obviously, for where it's placing here. And while it incorporated that disco sound from the late 70s in here, that's actually one of the reasons that I do like this. I think it was a great blend, and it worked perfectly on this album here. You know, it created some absolutely memorable songs. I Was Made for Lovin' You, Dirty Livin', and Charisma. Just great, outstanding tracks on this album. Okay, coming in at number 2, Lick It Up, 1983, 11th studio album. Featuring new guitarist Vinnie Vincent taking over for Ace Frehley on this one. The album's got an updated sound for the 80s, but it retains the heaviness of 70s era Kiss on here, and featuring one of their biggest hits, Lick It Up. The album's other 10 tracks on here though, from start to finish, are just really great, outstanding. In my opinion, there's not a bad one on here. I can simply listen to this album at any time. I can always pull it out. It never gets old for me. All right, and the #1 Kiss album, Love Gun from 1977, 6th studio album. First one to feature Ace Frehley taking lead vocals on for the song Shock Me, which was actually based on real events, and thereby making this the first Kiss album that actually had all 4 members taking lead vocals. And so full of classic Kiss songs on here: I Stole Your Love, Christine 16, of course the title track Love Gun, and just great deep cuts on here. Hooligan, another Peter Criss song that I love. Almost Human, Gene Simmons sung track on here. And you know, all of this, it has great sound on it, solid production, fantastic songs, classic Kiss feel, all making this a #1 Kiss album for me in my ranking. And so there you go, that is Kiss album ranking. Do check the description for links to related videos. In particular, I've done a full review of the Kiss box set that you can see behind me there, the deluxe edition and the guitar case version. And also I did a video called Kiss Deconstructing Destroyer, where myself and Chris Prophy, my co-host, break down the album as a whole and talk about whether or not we really think it's as classic as a lot of people say that that album is. If you're interested in those, do check the description for links. And if you've enjoyed this video, please consider sharing it out on social media. Help spread the word that way. All right, everyone, have a great day. Take care, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye, everyone.